1, a 2, a 1.
It's time for the Better Horses radio show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
And welcome to Better Horses. We appreciate you joining us. My name's Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And together we're going to be talking all about horses. We have a great show and a great lineup this week. Merle, thank you for joining us. And boy, this is going to be an exciting show today.
Oh, we've got a great show for you today. If you, hopefully you'll clear your schedule and put us on your iPhones and you listen to a kind of a diverse show today.
You know, it is. We're going to start off our first segment going into Kerry Kuhn Horsemanship. He's going to get us into equine tips. He's going to be Medicine Lodge, Kansas. And the guy's really good. And I got to tell you, if you ever want to get into a clinic, he's the one to tap into.
Yeah, very educational. He's always such a great guest, too. He's a wealth of knowledge.
You know, and one of the things that Equine Mechanix is talking about the care and custody of horses. But, you know, if you have behavioral problems with your horses, the person to really talk to, Rhonda Martin over here in Missouri, talking about performance horse consulting. She does it all. And she's going to give us some real insights on what's happening with your horses. And it's not all about training.
You know, and she's got a wealth of information and especially about soft tissue injuries and I look forward to hearing from her.
You know, and Lee Smith, Essential Elements of Horsemanship. She's a professional horse trainer out of New Mexico. She studied under Ray Hunt. She's going to come on board and talk about her techniques and her training that she does out there in the Southwest.
She's a first timer to the show, but I think our guests will love hearing from her.
You know, I got to tell you, and Merle, you and I have talked about it. We were so fortunate to be down at the Kentucky Horse Park at the Alltech Arena and actually got to visit and see and interview all of those great elite trainers that were at the Road to the Horse right there in Kentucky.
That sounds really exciting. I can't wait to see what we got for a Better Horses TV show. I know you and Kelly will come up with some good clips, I'm sure.
If you're not familiar with Road to the Horse, there is a way of elite trainers. It's an invitational. And Donnell Hancock from Australia, Tick Maynard over there in Canada, Ken McNabb from the USA, and the wild card guy all got to do a training program with colt starting from the Pitchfork Ranch out of Texas. And they only had an hour and a half for 3 days. And breaking these horses. And if you haven't seen this, you got to see it on the Cowboy Channel. We're going to do highlights here at Better Horses Television. This is truly amazing. And there is another invitational of slightly younger trainers that got to do a wild card. Lindsey Patterson and John Barr and C.D. Wilcox also got to compete. Prior to that event, C.D. Wilcox ended up winning it. And at the end of the day, Tick Maynard won the entire thing out of Canada. And if you haven't seen the highlights, I invite you to look at Better Horses as we have interviews with all of these people and all of their techniques. And Merle, the fun part about this is they all had different ways of approaching a colt starting. And that truly was something you can put in all of your toolkits. So we're going to take a break just to celebrate Tick. We're going to have our first equine tip of the day is going to be from our own Canadian elite trainer at the Road to the Horse, Tick Maynard.
I want to talk a little bit about the idea of prerequisites. What I mean by that is by always having an idea that if we're working on something, what are the things that need to be good, that we need to accomplish before we do that? I'm going to give you a couple examples. This is one I see all the time. I'll be working on a jumper course and a horse will be falling in on the turn. You know, as they come around the short side of the arena, they're turning back to the left to come back to a jump, maybe a big oxer, and the horse will fall in on the turn. And we'll talk about leg yielding the horse out, having the horse stay out a little bit off of your inside leg. Of course, you can also have the horse stay out off of your outside rein or both reins. But leg yielding in particular is something that can really help you in all horse disciplines and in your warm-up for different classes. If you're having trouble doing that at the canter, what are some prerequisites? You know, so right away I'd think I would ask you, can you do this at the trot? So I'd ask you to come around, you know, through that turn and leg yield to the outside of the trot. if you can't do it at the trot, rather than continuing to work on that, kind of banging our head against the wall, see if you could leg yield along the rail. If you still have trouble doing that and your horse is just bending its head to the right, but the feet are still traveling straight, is I'd ask if you could leg yield at the walk. Usually I'll have people leg yield at the walk on the rail first and then off the rail, the way that you might in a dressage arena, from the center line to the rail, or from the rail to the center line. If you can't leg yield at the walk, you're probably not going to be able to leg yield at the trot. If you can't leg yield at the trot, you're probably not going to be able to leg yield at the canter. If you're having trouble leg yielding at the walk, what's a prerequisite for that? Maybe a turn on the forehand. So in that case, I'd have you walk down the rail, halt, have the hindquarters come to the inside, have the front legs stay where they are, and turn all the way around the front legs till you've turned 180 degrees the other way and you can walk off. What if your horse can't even do that? What's a prerequisite for that? In that case, what I might do is work with the horse and the rider from the ground. Can the horse understand the idea of moving the hindquarters away from your hand, just off of steady pressure? What if they can't even do that? Can the horse move off of steady pressure backwards or drop their head? What I'm looking for is always a way, if we're having trouble, if we're struggling with something, if we're spending 30 seconds, 60 seconds, sometimes minutes or weeks or days, and we're not accomplishing that, we want to back up and we want to check off, make sure we've accomplished the prerequisites. Another example that I see quite a lot of is people that are wanting to improve the quality of the gait in their horse. They're wanting a more athletic, better quality of trot, or more athletic, better quality canter. And they keep kind of, with a lazy horse or a dull horse, they keep kind of like pushing away at that and micromanaging that, and it turns into like this constant sort of back and thing where they really just end up sort of bugging their horse or annoying their horse, and it doesn't really improve that much anyway. I have two prerequisites that I want you to accomplish before you start working on the quality of the gait. Number one, can you maintain gait? So what I mean by that is, if you're wanting to trot, give yourself a certain length of time or a certain number of laps of the arena, and see if you can do that without constantly micromanaging your horse, even if the trot is lazy. So what I'm saying is, if you're trotting along, allow them to come back to the walk, then correct it. Maybe use the stick if you need to, but then have them trot off until they can maintain gait. Maybe if I'm lunging, I might pick 4 circles. Can they keep trotting for 4 circles without me having to micromanage it, even if it's lazy? My second prerequisite is, how good are your transitions? I would say I want them a 7 or an 8 out of 10. What that means is, if they're trotting around, even if it's lazy, they're going around in a circle around me, I'm lunging them, and I ask them to go from the trot to the canter, can they do it on the first time I ask, not the second, not the third time I ask, but the first time I ask, and can they do it without me telling them? What I mean by that is, do I have to ask nicely and then use the stick, or could I just kind of lift up my hand, give that quiet cluck, and they pick up the canter from that lazy trot? If you're already working on the quality of the gait and yet you can't maintain gait, and you can't do a trot to canter transition on the first attempt, I would say go back and work on those 2 things first. And one of the interesting things is that if you actually work on those 2 things, the quality of the gait seems to get better almost by itself. For almost anything that I do with horses, if I start to struggle with something for more than 30 seconds, in my mind, I just take a little check there and I go, hey, if I'm struggling with this, if my horse is struggling with this, have I really checked off all the prerequisites? Sometimes I'll take a walk break, go back to something simpler, and then work up to the exercise I was working on before. Of course, the most obvious time we see that is if you're taking a jumping lesson. If you keep having a stop at 3'6", or you keep having a rail at 3'6", and things aren't going well, what's the first thing we do? Hopefully, it's lower the height of the fence. You go back to 3'3" or 3 feet, and that's sort of your prerequisite. Jumping a 3-foot course is a prerequisite for jumping a 3'3" course. We work our way up gradually. So if you're having a trouble with your young horse, and even if you're not having trouble and you want to bring them along, try to have a clear idea in your head of the steps that you want to go on in order to get to your goal.
Internal parasite control is critical to your horse's health, but isn't always easy. Some worms are as stubborn as they are dangerous. Luckily, there's Panacur Fenbendazole from Merck Animal Health. It works in a powerful and extremely safe way, so it's tough on parasites but gentle on horses, making it a safe choice for foals, weanlings, and even thin or debilitated horses. Consult your veterinarian for assistance in the diagnosis, treatment, and control of parasitism, and ask how Panacur can become part of your deworming strategy. Learn more at MerckAnimalHealthUSA.com.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
2024 is the year to compete in the world's largest horse show, the Pinto World Championship. This 13-day event begins June 8th, starting with our youth weekend through June 22nd, and caters to all riding levels and ages. With over $1 million in cash and prizes, there are no qualifications required to enter. Held in Tulsa, Oklahoma, located at the Ford Complex, the Pinto World Championship caters to all types of equines. With over 700 classes, the Pinto Show welcomes a variety of breeds to compete. It's a family environment with healthy competition. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses. And in this next segment, I want to tell all of you listeners out there, if you're looking to get geared up for horseman gear, and I'm not talking about the store-bought cowboy, there's a place called Kleinschmidt's Western Wear. Now, they're located in Higginsville, Missouri, and they are probably one of the best facilities to get everything you need to get geared up. Merle, I know you've been there once or twice.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorite stores.
So if you want to check them out, it's a great facility. You can get them online for our nationwide viewers. It's kleinboot.com, KLEINBOOT.com. Okay, in this next segment, as I promised, we have a guy that knows all about horses. He's a father, he's an author, he's an equine clinician and trainer. He's conducted clinics in 46 out of 50 states in the U.S., and he's been a presenter in major horse fairs and expos across the country, and I think even Canada. So his experience in the equine industry, as well as life, and it makes him a really powerful, motivational speaker. I'm glad to have him on Better Horses. Everyone say hello to Kerry Kuhn. Kerry, welcome to Better Horses.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Kerry, I'm glad you joined us. We had you on the radio show before, and you were just getting started, and we never have enough time. So I want to get right into our questions here. And that's like establishing relationships with your horse. You're doing a lot of cold starting. Merle and I just talked about Road to the Horse, and we know you're really good about getting horses legged up and getting them started. Talk about your relationship and how you get them going.
Well, I try to build my approach around, in my opinion, what matters most to the horse. So everything that we do when we're starting a colt or a young horse, or even some older horses, I've had the opportunity to be in some demonstration environments where they've brought me 10, 11, 12-year-old horses that hadn't been started. I'm trying to build a relationship with a horse that doesn't know much about you, doesn't know much about what you want them to do. If we can fall back on what matters the most to the horse, I think it's so much easier to build that relationship. And to me, it's all built around the premise of making sure that you show that horse their freedom to be mobile is as important to you as it is to them. Because once a horse understands that you value how they see things, then, in my opinion, it just makes it so much easier for that horse to relax while he's around you.
And Kerry, you bring up an interesting point for me, and I have my own personal bias, but do you think it's easier starting a younger horse or an older horse that, like, because you're bringing in those 10 or 11, 12s, that are a little more physically mature, or the 2 or 3 or 4 year olds that maybe don't have it, quite as ingrained in their brain?
Well, from a physical standpoint, I would much rather deal with the older horse just because their body's probably a little bit more mature for what we might be asking them to do. But hands down, there is no question. When you're talking about starting a horse under saddle, their 2-year-old year, which is kind of controversial. Some people say it's still too young to be riding them. We choose to ride our horses their 2-year-old year, and we truly believe the 2-year-old year is the easiest year you're going to have make an influence on a horse's mind when he's big enough that you can start riding him some. We might not ride him as hard as we would at 3 or 4 or 5 or older, but we can take that 2-year-old year. You got a young mind that's not really set in their own opinions yet. So it's a lot easier to introduce yourself and maybe steer that horse in a different direction mentally than if that horse was a little bit older.
That goes a long way, especially when your experience level makes all the difference in the world when you're training a horse. Your thoughts on somebody taking and selecting a horse? We've talked about it prior to this show. You and I have lots of people looking for horses. What are some of the tips you want to give them when they're looking for a horse?
Well, in my opinion, if you're looking for a horse, somebody that's green, doesn't have a lot of experience, I would probably steer those people away from a horse that doesn't have some training on it. A green rider and a green horse often don't mix well. A rider that doesn't have a lot of experience, that just says, I'm going to go buy some push button horse that's got 5 years of training and that horse is going to teach me everything. I wish it worked that way, but it really doesn't. They're going to end up taking a push button horse and bringing that horse back down to their level in a short amount of time. So to me, the best thing a person can do when they're looking for a horse is, number one, be patient. Number two, understand that you're not just buying a horse, you're buying the training that has been invested in that horse. And to really benefit from that training, you need to spend some time with the trainers, learning and understanding the approaches that they took with that horse. So then when you try to communicate with that horse in the same manner, it's going to be something that is somewhat common, or that horse is familiar with the approach they're taking. So I tell people, you're better off to buy a $2,500 horse that's got $7,500 worth of training invested in him. Still need to go spend some time seeing how that whole training process went down. I say it this way: if you don't know how to build it, you're going to have a very hard time maintaining it. So maybe you don't have the time to watch the trainer build the whole process, but you can invest enough time with that trainer to get a better understanding of how he built it and how he daily maintains it.
And Kerry, that's a good point. I think people don't understand they're not buying a car or a tractor. They get in and they figure out the buttons. The horse is learning from them as they're learning from the horse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you take a horse that's achieved a high level in their training and you match them with someone that's at a much lower level, there's a lot of places that horse is going to fill in some gaps. But ultimately, regardless of how high of a level that horse has achieved, that horse's role is still to follow the leadership of the rider. So that horse is even supposed to come back down to your level and follow your lead. So the best way for a rider to really be on the same page as their horse is they have to understand the process that horse went through, so then they can provide the same leadership that trainer did. It might look a little bit different, but they got to be on the same page.
Just out of full transparency, I am making a recommendation that you are one of the trainers next year for Road to the Horse, as we talked about that at the beginning of the show. I don't know if you caught it, but establishing that relationship with the horse in such a short amount of time on that type of event is truly amazing. You have a lot of clinics. So what are the one things that you like to teach in your horsemanship skills that you find everyone needs to gravitate to, or things that you need to really hit home?
Well, I think it all really comes back down to, in the things that we ask these horses to do for us, do we really value or care about what the horse thinks about what we're asking? So it doesn't matter if that horse has had 3 rides or 300 rides, or they've been riding this horse for 6 years. When my riders ride with me at a clinic, yes, I'm trying to show them specific techniques and exercises that we use to build more body control in a horse physically and mentally. But throughout that whole clinic, my number one priority is to remind those riders, you have to be not just aware, but you have to show that horse in some way that you value how they feel about what you're asking of them. Because, I mean, even from a human to human perspective, if you don't feel valued in how you see something, it's hard to want to spend time around that person. And I see it everywhere I go in these horses. They're struggling with the same thing. We want to force something down their throat, and they're trying to speak to us. Maybe they're saying, I'm scared, I'm confused, I'm mad. And then we just say, we don't care, this is what we want. It's really hard for those horses to truly open up to us, in my opinion.
You know, Kerry, one of the things I want to ask you, and maybe I'm doing this wrong, I push a lot of my kids that are out there to get into these shows. Do you find these shows valuable, or are they just too stressful sometimes, and you'd rather see them wait before they get into them? What's your opinion on these?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of show you're talking about. If we're just going to a reining or a cow horse show or a barrel race or a rodeo or something like that, then I would say, obviously, there's going to be a different mental perspective in that environment than what you had at home. If you want to prepare your horse for whatever kind of show you're going to take it to, I view it this way. You need to understand what's going to be different at the show. You need to understand that from the rider, there's going to be some nerves involved. And as those things compound for the horse, it makes it a more stressful environment for the horse. So I tell people all the time, you can find a way to put more pressure on your horse, not in a way where you're just trying to take advantage of them, but find a way at home to put more pressure on that horse than what that horse would ever be asked for at the show. Then when you show up at the show, it's like a day off for that horse. I can give you an example. Let's say somebody's going to take their horse to a barrel race. If all you do at home is practice going slow, and then you get to the race and you ask them for everything they've got, obviously you've made that show, that barrel race, way more stressful for that horse. You prepare that horse for what you're going to ask for at the show, and then through consistency, you put some pressure on that horse at home, in some ways asking for more at home than you would at the show. Then when you get to the show, the horse is like, man, I can do this in my sleep. Now all of a sudden I don't see a horse that's hard to get down the alley because I can't get him in the arena, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect. Even getting them in the trailer and just practice trailering them and going to a different environment is even good. Those are really good tips. Kerry, I got to tell you, those are your clinics out for 2024. It's on your website, kerrykuhn.com. It looks like you're spending a lot of time in North Dakota, but you are coming down to Kansas and you are going to Ohio. And so I recommend everybody come out to see them. And that is basically kerrykuhn.com. And if you're looking to get some real special training, this is the man to see. Kerry, I want to thank you for joining us. As always, we want you to come back and keep these tips going.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on today.
All right, Kerry. You can see Kerry on our TV show. He's also got articles in our newspaper. Merle, we're going to take a break. That was a good segment. And
Yes,
other than that, I think we're going to be right back right after these messages. And welcome back to Better Horses. As we promised, this is going to be not only a educational side of training horses, but also getting really into the importance of taking care of horses. Merle, this is something we do every day. And this segment is brought to you by the Pinto Horse Association of America. If you're looking to hit a show, and this is something that I'm a little bit biased for, over 700 classes, you can have advanced, you can be immediate, you can be a novice rider, and this is something to really look forward to. It's called the Pinto Horse Association of America, and the show's coming up, Merle, I think June 8th through the 22nd.
Yep. Yeah, it's always a fun show. There's a class for everybody. It is the world's single breed largest horse show. So if you're sitting on the fence or at home thinking about, well, I don't know if I could go there. There's a class. I guarantee you, if you've got a three-legged donkey, there's a class for it. I mean, no, not really, but
700 classes. There's $1 million worth of prizes there. So you're going to walk away with something, and it's really a lot of fun. Almost as fun is our next guest we have coming up. Now, this person right now is somebody I really have a lot of respect for, and she's owner of Equine Mechanix, and she is a performance horse consultant. She gets into sports massages. She goes into Katy taping. Merle, she goes into saddle fitting. I've used her for this, custom pads and all over outlining areas here in the Kansas City area. But she goes to clinics and she does a lot of lessons and consulting. And this is something I really want to get into. Everybody from Better Horses, welcome Rhonda Martin. Rhonda, thank you for joining the show.
Hey, Ed, thanks for having me.
You're coming to us with a lot of experience. And we talk about that horse that everybody has in their barn or in their pasture that is just having behavioral issues. Is it because it's a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? And this is something you tap into. And how did you fall into this?
Oh, it was a long time ago, about 32 years ago. I have a degree in anatomy and physiology, and I have always ridden horses, but I was riding endurance horses. And it was the people at the events, the veterinarians, vetting these horses in before, during, and after the rides, and working with all the people who are really forward thinkers that got me thinking, how do you get a horse through 25, 50, or 100 miles metabolically and physically sound? There were some people there that had over 10,000 career miles on a horse. And it really got me thinking differently. So I started scribing for the vets and asking them, how do you know if they're sore here? How can I learn about this? And I just scribed and watched, and rode with the best people in the industry. And that's what my start was.
And that's amazing because we always have performance behavioral issues. And it's not necessarily a training issue. These horses could really be hurting. This is your wheelhouse. This is what you really try to get after. And what do you find most of the time?
Well, number one, I want to help clear something up for people. A lot of people think their horses can choose to be naughty. They learn that through their experience, that something's going to be uncomfortable. Horses do not have the same part of their brain that humans do that allows you to think and formulate and decide, your present and future events. Horses don't have that. So they're responding to what they've been experiencing. So most horse training problems are misunderstandings and pain problems, and learning to recognize how those manifest themselves before they turn into huge problems is what I've looked at over the last 32 years. And a conservative estimate, I've probably worked on over 24,000 horses in my lifetime. So I'm a student of the horse. Why do they do what they do? And that is a multifaceted background of horsemanship, of all different disciplines, studying horses, how horses function physiologically and psychologically. So most horses are telling you something doesn't work for them. Either you're not a very good communicator in your training and they're really struggling, or they hurt. And horses are pretty stoic by nature. They hide their pain.
That's interesting, Rhonda. As you know, as a horse trainer, I think one of the hardest things for me is to figure out when is there a difficulty in the training process that maybe we're not getting through versus when is it physical. And what do you think your percentage that you've seen personally versus people are having an issue that they've come to you and said, hey, we can't figure this out?
It's pretty high. So when I get to work with a lot of trainers like you, and my job in the middle, and I'm certainly not a vet, but love to refer when at all possible, is to figure out that it's not that the horse won't, but when it can't. And you as the trainer will reach that point where you're at an impasse. And I work directly with a lot of veterinarians to try and figure out the horse's issues. Current veterinary medicine tends to look at horses joint by joint, and that's where working through the organization AAETT that I'm part of, Dr. Turner is promoting those ideas that we look at the whole horse, because 65% of a horse is soft tissue. And if the horse is struggling in the training, you're either programming positive muscle memory or a negative weak muscle memory. And that's what I hope to help people figure out through palpation, observation, and the work. But it's a high percentage. I bet if you, the trainer, come to me, I know you're fantastic at what you do. There's probably a pretty high percentage, like 90% or better, that horse is struggling because of a soft tissue problem.
Rhonda, you brought up a very good point, and I want to make sure we have time to talk about this. You sitting on the board of the AAETT. Now, this is the American Association of Equine Therapists and Technicians, and this is something you're getting into, which kind of like underscores what you're saying about all of the wellness and therapy that is needed within these horses. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I joined AAETT a few years ago and ended up on the founding board. We just feel that there is a huge need to professionalize people who are non-veterinarians working on horses' bodies. There are thousands of programs and certification classes out there that people have been taking because people want their horses to feel better. But now there's not been any professionalization. So through our organization, we are writing core standards of proficiency and working with other organizations like Navicam, who already accredit equine bodywork programs for canine and equine massage and acupressure, and also will certify body workers if they can stand for their examination. That is the direction we're taking with the help of Dr. Tracy Turner, the president of the AAEP, and Dr. Steve Adair from the University of Tennessee. We've gathered up a phenomenal group of people to help us develop this organization and bring a new level of professionalism to lay people like myself who can help be adjunct therapists to veterinary programs. Because in this day and age, there are so many performance horses, and it's really hard there's not enough veterinarians out there. And that's a real problem in the industry right now. Getting that vet care, there's simply not enough vets to go around. Yes. So that's where we're trying to step up the game and help people become educated and aware of how we can better help horses.
Yeah, it's a very good point. The American Association of Equine Therapists and Technicians, you guys even have a conference coming up on June 27th through the 30th. And I think that's
Correct.
really important. So I think that's really exciting to hear about. And, you know, what we also forget is we are taking these horses out of their natural habitat. And as what Merle and I will talk about, you know, we're training them, throwing into a stall, throwing them into the arenas, and we're trying to get people like you that will support and guide us to benefit them and their entire livelihood on how the equine industry needs to treat these horses. And I think that's a big thing that you're bringing to the table.
Absolutely. We want to help prevent and educate people with the typical problems that horses are dealing with. I mean, the environment that we put horses in looks great to us, but that doesn't mean it works for horses. And learning how to better recognize that and how it manifests itself into physical and emotional problems, which then translate to training problems. I'm so passionate about that and helping to educate people to learn more, because I think when it works out well, the horses perform better, they're happy, and that brings a great deal of satisfaction to everyone involved in the process.
Yeah, I think this is something all our boarders want to see. And even boarding barns that are taking care of 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 horses at a time. This is very, very vital. I think you should have people like you coming to the barns all the time, which reminds me, Merle and I are going to fight on your next appointment, whether it's going to your barn or my barn, but we'll figure that out later. So, it was really good. We do not get enough of this information. This is called Equine Mechanix. You can check Rhonda Martin out on her Facebook page, and she has a way to get a hold of her. Rhonda, if somebody wanted to tag up with you personally, is there a number or a Facebook page they can go to?
Sure. My business Facebook page is called Equine Mechanix. Mechanix spelled Mechanix. And they can also just simply give me a phone call at 816-645-6838.
That's perfect. This is Rhonda Martin at Equine Mechanix. Feel free to get a hold of her. That number one more time, 816-645-6838. Rhonda, I can't thank you enough for joining us on this show, and we want to get you back because I think we're just touching the very tip of what we can really be getting into on this.
There's so much out there and so much for horse owners to learn, and that's something that we're offering at our conference in Lexington. We're at aaett.org. And we have something for every level of horse owner that will be at our conference. Thursday will be all premium wet labs, including some live dissections from Nick LeDucere, who works with Dr. Sean Strain at the International Equine Academy, a dental academy in Idaho. He'll be dissecting heads for us, but it's amazing the lineup we have. So check it out, people. We've got something for everyone.
That's great. AAETT conference. It'll be Thursday, June 27th through the 30th. We appreciate that. And join us again, and we'd love to have you back. So Rhonda Martin, everyone. Merle, we're going to have to take a break. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hi, I'm Tommy with Heritage Tractor. Whether you're looking to maintain your yard or your whole ranching operation, Heritage Tractor has John Deere mower and tractor packages that make work fly by. With a variety of horsepower and attachment configurations, we have a package to best fit your needs and budget. To learn more about these exclusive packages, visit us in store or online at heritagetractor.com.
Legendary products, extraordinary service, that's our heritage.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered Pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
Runny nose, cough, fever. It's flu season for humans and horses. Like human flu vaccines, equine flu vaccines must be updated to protect against the flu strains circulating now. Merck Animal Health's flu-containing vaccines include the most current flu strains, protecting your horse from illness and time-missed training because of it. Talk with your veterinarian about prestige flu vaccines and learn more about the science of advanced protection at prestigevaccines.com.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes the barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
2024 is the year to compete in the world's largest horse show, the Pinto World Championship. This 13-day event begins June 8th, starting with our youth weekend through June 22nd, and caters to all riding levels and ages. With over $1 million in cash and prizes, there are no qualifications required to enter. Held in Tulsa, Oklahoma, located at the Ford Complex, the Pinto World Championship caters to all types of equines. With over 700 classes, the Pinto Show welcomes a variety of breeds to compete. It's a family environment with healthy competition. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
And we are back with better horses and more conversations about horses. Merle, the show's going really, really well. I think talent.
Yes, it's been a great show so far. And I enjoy not only just training tips, but also different topics like we've had on today.
You know, it's all about training. It's all about caring and custody of the horses, and also going nationwide. We're talking to trainers all around the country. And this segment is brought to you by a John dealer that's big in the Midwest. It's called Heritage Tractor, and these people really know how to pull it together. And not only having a lot of inventory available for everybody to buy tractors and all your needs in the farming and in the ranching industry, but their service department is just by far one of the best in the country.
I've heard that. I've heard a lot of people not only buy their tractor there, but they buy it because they can get it worked on and they're great to work with.
Because the less we have to deal with our tractors, the more we get time for our horses. And I am excited about this next guest that we have coming up, all the way from New Mexico. She studied under the horsemanship of Leigh Hunt. She's trademarked Essential Elements of Horsemanship. Everybody welcome professional trainer, Leigh Smith. Leigh, welcome to Better Horses.
Hi, thank you for welcoming me.
You know, I have watched you, and you've really gone through this industry really well, and you've got a great training background and a great reputation. But you've established a really good training program, and you really tag up on the relationship of the horse. Tell me about your techniques.
You know, the quote that you opened with that said, I studied under Leigh Hunt, I'm sure you meant Ray Hunt. And back in the 80s, when I was working for others riding horses, I met Ray Hunt, and it changed my life. And so I patterned what I do very much now in the style and fashion that Ray Hunt did. I studied with him until his passing, and it's just my honor to share the concepts and ideas that he tried to represent, and I try to do that every day. So now I do clinics all around the country and have since 1990. We have a lovely facility where people can come and ride with me as well here in New Mexico. And we can help a lot of people with their horses.
You know, talking about good point. I think Ray just rolled in his grave because I mispronounced his name. So Ray's actually been kind of a pinnacle for training a lot of the trainers that are out there today. And just dealing with confidence and feeling safe on your horse is something you really tap in on. And walk us through on some of your clinics that you go through that with.
You know, we start like a lot of trainers do with groundwork, and I help people to really try to understand their responsibilities to the horse. One of which is helping the horse to understand that he can avoid the pressure if he'll follow a feel. And helping people to understand sensitization and desensitization to benefit their relationship, the horse's understanding, and to build confidence.
Well, and I think one of your interesting clinics for me is the video horsemanship, because like you've mentioned on there, it's if you could see what I see. Go and can you tell us more about how that came to be?
Oh, the video clinics are pretty amazing. They're my most effective format for helping people create change. I started doing it. My husband and I were riding cutters in Texas when we first met, and we would argue a bit about who was doing what. You did this. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. So we started filming it. So this was back in the in the 90s. And so I've been using film all along. And of course, performance people use film all the time, but a lot of us don't use it in our training sessions. And I think that's one of the places that it's so important, because it's perfect practice that makes perfect. So I started using film in my clinics. So I'll have riders come in, and I will, of course, have meet and greet and ask questions about what their situations are like and what they might need help with. Maybe they have a desire or something that they hope to get out of the clinic specifically. And then I film the riders, and I may film even the groundwork class if I recognize that folks may need help perfecting their groundwork. And then I film them under their own warm-up with the things that they would do and the way that they would do them. And then I'll give them a call to follow on specific things that I want them to see. And then each afternoon we watch that and start again. So everybody gets to see all the riders at once. We do, it's one of those things where we learn from each other. So it is personal because you get to see yourself riding, but a lot of the information comes across from the other riders that may be riding. And so each rider progresses just at an amazing rate. It's really my most effective format.
You know, you look at performing multiple disciplines. So you take people from reining, dressage, cutting, jumping, barrel racing, and I think even endurance riding and competitive events. Do you find that your technique is pretty much stable through all of those disciplines?
Again, my relationship with Ray and the understanding from all the things I did with him and the opportunity I have to train and work with others, horses and people. My friend would say the horse is never wrong. And in that video filming, we can really see that the horses are almost always in response. They believe they're doing the right thing based on our presentation. And many of us are not aware enough to understand that the horse is doing what it is we've told him to do. It may not be what we have in mind. And so we have to adjust our presentation so that we can get the results that we're after.
I totally agree. We become almost equine psychiatrists there for a minute. Talk about your clinics you got coming up. Now, you're a little bit of everywhere. Arizona, New Mexico is your primary base. But how do you get to all the, you have your 2024 schedule already laid out. How can they get a hold of you? How can they find out more about your training program?
My website, of course, leesmithdiamonds.com. And they can find out about, if they have interest in hosting a clinic, there's some information in there and they can call me from that. But we do travel the country, Montana, Missouri, Nebraska, Wisconsin. I also go to Canada and Australia. So we have a schedule, but I do have some openings if somebody has an interest. And there are times that we can do some private things. The ranch weeks are very intimate when people come here to our ranch. The clinics are relatively small. So there may be 5 people, there might be 10. And we work on a variety of things, working cattle, we trail troubles, things like that. So there's a lot of opportunity here in New Mexico. And I do a small handful of ranch weeks out throughout the country as well from time to time. So they can find me there.
So if you're interested in hosting a clinic, you can get a hold of Lee Smith at Essential Elements of Horsemanship. And you can get a hold of her at 602-684-3884. Or they can also find you on your website at leesmithdiamonds.com. So everyone, I want to thank you, Lee, for joining us on this show. We want to get you back, and it's been a pleasure having you on board.
Oh, so nice of you to think of me. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and visit about horses.
Thank you, Lee Smith, for joining us, and be sure to check her out at her website at leesmithdiamonds.com. Merle, one of the things I always appreciate is how many great trainers there are across the country, and we cannot highlight them fast enough.
To me, I always feel like I learn so much just listen to them talk.
And you know, it's really great. All these trainers are writing articles, so I invite all of you to check out Better Horses newspaper. You can check it out on betterhorses.com. And we also have a television show that's airing on RFD, the Cowboy Channel, and now Equus TV, a streaming channel that's going out there. So you can also see us, hear us, and also read about us all at the same time. So we can't get enough of that equine information out to everybody.
Yeah, we've got everybody covered on all the bases.
And we want to remind everybody that this radio show is going to be a part of our podcast. Just go into wherever you see your podcast, Better Horses, and you'll get to hear everything along with those historical trainers' advice that they've had throughout the weeks. And we want all of you to be good buckaroos and buckarettes. Mind your mom and dads, and be brave, but don't take any chances out there. Until next time, I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
Happy trails, and always ride for the brand.